Where are we going to start today? I don't know. I don't even know where we were last week. Let's pick up again in chapter 14. Let's drop down to about verse 23. This is Jesus speaking. If, capital I, capital F, if anyone loves me, he'll keep my word. Verse 24. He who doesn't love me won't keep my word. Pretty simple, isn't it? If anybody loves me, he'll keep my word. And now he who doesn't love me, he won't keep my words. Now this is a word-for-word quote from Jesus by this guy John, who Jesus referred to as my beloved. He wrote a good deal of the New Testament. And he expounds on this a little bit in another one of his writings. So keep this in mind. Hold your place there, because we're not done. But you know what else he wrote besides the Gospel of John? He also wrote the Book of Revelation, but he also wrote 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Johns. So hold your place right there in chapter 14, but see if you can find 1 John, which is a little bitty letter to the right. Go that way. And if you get to 2 John, you're going too far. If you're in 2 Peter, you ain't far enough. It's between 2 Peter and 2 John. All right, I just want to read you something. But you got to keep in mind what I'm reading is an expounded commentary of what Jesus just said by the same guy who wrote it all. I don't know if that's making sense. 1 John, let's start chapter 4 for us. Let's get to it there. My notes are all messed up. First John. Am I in the right place? No, 1 John chapter 2. That's right, my notes are all messed up. 1 John chapter 2. Here we go. So remember what Jesus just said. So I need to read these things together. I'm going to read them together. I'm going to flip. Anyone who loves me keeps my word, and the one who doesn't love me won't keep my word. And the one who says, I have come to know him, and won't keep his commandments, that person is a liar. But whoever does keep his word, see, John is just expounding on what Jesus said. Whoever will keep his words. Now in this guy, in him, the love of God has truly been perfected. But the one who says, I abide in him, time out. You know what abide means? Simply means live. Because you're going to hear the word abide many times today. Abide means live. So, whoever says, I live in him, ought himself walk in the same manner that he walked. Remember now, Jesus saying, look, if you love me, you'll keep my word. If you don't love me, you won't keep my word. And John expounds on this, saying, if you really live in him, you ought to walk the same way he walked. And I'll paraphrase. If you call yourself a Christian, you call yourself a believer, you ought to deal with things the same way he did. Is this getting across to anybody? If you say, I'm a Christian, if you say I'm a believer, if you say I live in him, but you won't live the way he lived, you're a liar. Don't get mad at me, I didn't write this. You ought to be dealing with everything that you're up against the same way that Jesus would have. He ought to be, y'all have seen that slogan or the t-shirt, bump sticker, WWJD. What would Jesus do? Of course, we have one called WWJT, what would Jesus tattoo, but that's a different sort of little story. But what would Jesus do? You know what? You have to take that seriously. If you say, I live in him and he lives in me, I'm a disciple of Jesus, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, yeah, I'm one of his followers, then you ought to be trying to live your life the same way he did. If you're going through some financial problems, well, how would he deal with it? He fed 15,000 people with one little kid's lunch. If you're dealing with friends and family, people you know going through a lot of sickness and illness and some serious health issues, well, what do? They tell you that I wish I felt better. What do? You just go back and say, well, I hope you do. No offense. I'm not being condemning. You say you're really not living like Jesus did. You're not doing what he would have done. Well, I could just stay on this all day, but I think you get my point. Jesus said, whoever says they love me will keep my word, and if they don't love me, they won't keep my word. And John expounds on it and says, the one who says he lives in Jesus ought to himself walk the same manner that Jesus walked. You ought to deal with things the exact same way he did.
Amen.
Thank you. Quit being afraid of weather. I don't know who this is for. Quit being afraid of weather. Are you saying bad stuff never happens? No. No, it does happen. And say, well, why don't you walk the way Jesus would have walked in regard to that?